Sweet. All right, here we go. Marley, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Yeah, no problem. So, we'll start here. Take me through what was your process like after high school? How grade 12 kind of took place and how it ended?
Yeah, so I went to Llewellyn for my first 4 years of high school, and I graduated, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life.
Right.
So I thought, I'm not going to go start college or university until I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I decided to do a victory lap year, and I split that between Sudbury Secondary and LaSalle, just because of the way the programs were offered. And yeah, I wanted a different experience too. I did 4 years at Llewellyn.
Right.
So I went and finished off my grade 12, I guess grade 13 or victory lap between those two high schools. And then at that point I decided I wanted to get into the healthcare field of some sort, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I started at Cambrian College and I took the pre-health program to kind of maybe help me make up my mind a little bit and give me a little bit of a foundation before I jump into a nursing program or MRI tech.
Is that what you want to do, nursing?
Yeah. I think ultimately that's what I decided. I think now, looking back on it, I would have liked to have been an operating room nurse. I think most of my experiences now, like later on in life, would have kind of, I guess, influenced that maybe, like with all of the experience I've had with operating room nurses, maybe.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will for sure in a bit. So, yeah. Oh, that's pretty sweet. Well, I got a bunch of nursing textbooks from my buddy James, so if you ever want them, they're all yours.
Perfect.
I won't charge you for them, but...
A little light reading.
Yeah. They're dense, those things. I open one, I'm like, come on. Refer to figure 2.64. But, yeah, so then, how did that tie into when you found out that you had the cancer?
So I started feeling really sick maybe around 13, 14 years old, so kind of in the beginning of high school. And I just felt really run down. I was having issues with my hair, my skin, my weight. I was always a heavy kid, regardless of how active I was or how healthy I ate.
Hey.
Sorry, actually, I have my charger.
Oh, yeah, grab it.
Thank you.
And then can you just close the door, please? On your way out?
Huh?
Just close the door on your way out.
What?
Close the door.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry for that.
That's okay.
Awesome. Yeah, so, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so, I started feeling really sick around 13, 14 years old, and I couldn't explain it. I was seeing lots of doctors, I guess my family doctor pretty frequently, and he wasn't really interested in looking much further into it. I guess this is the case with a lot of young adults who are sick. It can be explained away with puberty or hormones, and certainly the symptoms that I was having could have been. But with my family history of thyroid issues, I think maybe he should have looked a little further than he did.
Yeah.
So I guess when I graduated from my victory lap, it was kind of all coming to a peak where I was feeling really not myself. Something was wrong, and I knew something was wrong. And my doctor still wouldn't listen. So I finally, I know, very frustrating.
Come on, doc.
Yeah. I finally saw a nurse practitioner to renew a prescription when I was 19 years old, and I explained to her everything that was going on, and I said, like, my doctor's not listening. Where do I go from here? What else can I do? So she felt my neck, and in feeling my neck, she could feel that my thyroid was swollen. So that's obviously concerning at 19 years old. You shouldn't have any inflammation, especially paired with all the signs and symptoms I was having. So she kind of got the ball rolling from ultrasound to finding out there were nodules, and then biopsy, and eventually pathology.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Was that difficult at that period of your life to have all that happening and feeling that way?
It was difficult it was frustrating to not understand my body, for sure. It was difficult to be diagnosed with cancer at 19 years old, 20 years old.
Yeah, what was that like?
But it was also really relieving, because I finally had an answer to why I wasn't feeling, or why I was feeling the way I was feeling.
Okay, I understand.
So, yeah, I mean, it was obviously the worst day of my life, but at the same time, like, I finally had somebody who listened to me, and I finally had an answer. So there was kind of like that weird...
it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, not that it was a good day by any means, but, I mean, that nurse saved my life. At the end of the day, she did, so... Yeah.
Man, that's pretty cool.
It was devastating, of course.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to
Cool,
learn.
you got your answer and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no. Yeah, it's so how did your social life, and I read about this and everything, but I'm like curious about this. How did your social life get affected by this?
It was extremely affected. So I had lots of friends. Colin and I had just started dating.
Yes.
We'd only been together 8 months at the time. So new relationship, and then, I had lots of friends. I was in college. I had lots of high school friends still, and I was a dancer for 13 years, so I had lots of friends through that community as well. And then when I got sick, my life stopped, but theirs kept moving. So I think they moved on, and they kind of eventually forgot about the sick girl at home. And I don't know that at 19, if a friend of mine had been diagnosed, I don't know that I would have done any different. So there's been a lot of resentment there on my side, but also now, 6 years later, some understanding. So it was tough. I kind of found out who my true friends were pretty quickly.
Right, and that's where you think the understanding comes in. Where you're like, okay, you get, because there's some form of saying, I'm trying to like form the words in my head, where isn't it like you go through that kind of a thing, and then it kind of filters out certain people that maybe they weren't supposed to be there. Yeah,
I think people come into your life for a reason, and I think that my friends at the time who were in my life were there for a reason, and maybe they weren't meant to help me get through this journey, and that's fine. They were there at that time that they needed to be, and now I have formed some really amazing friends and friendships, relationships post-cancer and through cancer that are very meaningful to me.
So you say post-cancer, so whereabouts are you in the treatment? You get treated, once every 6 months?
So I don't get treated every 6 months, but I get seen by an oncologist every 6 months. Right. Yeah, so I'm kind of in this funny little waiting stage gray area. So they suspect that there are still cancer cells present. So there's a suspicious spot behind my sternum that they can't biopsy. So they can't definitively say, yes, it's cancer, or no, it's cancer. But I do have a tumor marker that's elevated. So it's suspected that it's cancer.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's the question with not really much of an answer.
No, exactly. So they're scanning me every 6 months, and we're waiting and watching until it grows significantly, and then we're going to do something about it. But until then, we're just going to watch, and hopefully it's years down the line and not months where we have to take action.
So with that being said, okay, let's figure out what I want to ask you next, because there's a bunch I can go. So, how did you get introduced to YAC? And can you explain what that is a little bit? Sorry to double down on the
That's okay. So YAC is Young Adult Cancer Canada, YACC.
Yeah.
So I was diagnosed in 2013, and about 2014, partway through, is when I was introduced to YAC. I was really struggling finding social support or supportive care in general in the Sudbury area for young adults.
Right.
I was kind of that funny age. I was 19, 20, so I wasn't a kid to be treated with pediatrics, but I also wasn't really like the 50-year-old patients in the waiting room next to me.
Yeah, it's an awkward.
So, yeah, it was a funny stage to be in, and there weren't any relevant resources available to me, and I was struggling a lot finding the support I needed. So I knew a young woman who also had cancer several years before that point. So she was in remission, but she had been connected to YAC. And she suggested, I found this group, and I think maybe you would find some use in it. So she connected me there, and it's just kind of taken off ever since then.
So what is it do you guys do as a group?
Okay, so Young Adult Cancer Canada provides support for patients with any type of cancer, any stage, any diagnosis, between 18 and 39. Yeah, right across the country. So we have a member in our organization from every province, every territory, which is it's really neat, actually. So they provide online resources. There's a social worker on the team who can help you find resources within your community if you need it. Right. We have a community engagement manager who can help match somebody who has a like diagnosis. So if you join the group and you are 25 years old and you were diagnosed with thyroid cancer and you're a woman, she can find another patient or or survivor who's 25 with thyroid cancer.
Whoa.
So yeah, it's like patient matching.
That's pretty cool.
So you can kind of have like a little cancer mentor, cancer buddy to help you kind of
big
get
brother,
through.
big sister type.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty sweet.
They also offer in-person programs.
Yeah.
So in larger cities like Toronto, Montreal, they offer what they call local life. So they get together one-on-one and they just have social activities. They have a pizza party. They go to a Jays game, like things like that.
Cool.
And then we have retreats for patients and survivors. We have, it's amazing. Retreats, yeah. Then they have a broader event called the Survivors Conference. So just over 100. Last year was 115 young adult cancer patients or survivors and their supporters get together for a big conference. There's workshops. It's basically a big Yak family reunion.
Nice.
Yeah, it's super amazing. I've been going for the last 3 years in a row, and this year I finally got to bring my husband. So,
Nice.
Yeah, it's really special.
Nice. I must have. How'd that feel?
To have my husband there?
Yeah. To have such a good unit together, and then you guys experience that.
Yeah, I think it was really healthy for us to both go.
I like that.
I think that Colin, leading up to the point of him actually attending, maybe didn't have a full understanding of how much Young Adult Cancer Canada affected my recovery. And I think him actually getting to come to the event and seeing like how meaningful these relationships are and how much support the group can give you, I think that kind of hammered home the importance of the organization for me in my journey.
Right, it's a perspective thing.
Yeah, and he got to meet
cool.
some other supporters, like husbands and partners of people who were diagnosed. And for him, for Colin, I don't want to speak for him, but we don't have a lot of friends who've supported somebody through an illness. So he doesn't really have a person who he can call up and say, hey, my wife is going through this and I need support too. So for him to be able to meet other supporters, I think was important also.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to one day be one of those like big sisters to someone in Sudbury?
Yeah, so I'm in the process of starting a young adult cancer support group in Sudbury. So I've been connected to several newly diagnosed thyroid cancer patients across the country, not necessarily in Sudbury because there's not a huge population of young adults here. But I was just recently connected to somebody who was diagnosed in Winnipeg, and she needs somebody who's gone through metastatic thyroid cancer like I have to kind of help guide her, like what's next, where do you go from here, and so on. So I do feel like I'm acting kind of like as that mentor, but I don't know that I feel qualified to act as a mentor because I'm still going through all of this. Yeah, but I mean I've been in it long enough, so I kind of unfortunately know the name of the game. But
so in one of the articles I read earlier, it said 22 young adults are diagnosed with cancer every day?
Every day in Canada.
In Canada.
Mm-hmm. And only one of those 22 people will find an organization like Young Adult Cancer Canada.
Why do you think that is?
Because the resources aren't out there, I think. It's not known. It's a countrywide group. We have 1,000 members in our group, but there's 8,000 young adults diagnosed every year. So it needs to be seen. It needs to be heard in cancer centers. I also think that there aren't enough resources in general, not necessarily just Yak related, but there's not enough research going into young adult cancers, and there's not enough pamphlets in cancer centers or support groups in cancer centers for people in our age demographic.
Is that how you feel the best way to promote it is?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if I sat down, I found a local group called the Sisterhood of Hope. It's all women of all diagnosis. I'm the only one under like 45, so I don't really relate to a lot of these women in that sense, but they're lovely, lovely ladies, and it's just nice to get to sit down to somebody who understands it. But I found this group because I saw a business card in the supportive care department of our hospital. So if there are Yak cards and Yak pamphlets and posters in our hospitals or universities, colleges where young adults frequent, you're going to reach a larger audience, and you're going to, maybe you'll see this poster and then 2 months later your friend is diagnosed. And you could say, hey, I saw this poster for an organization that I think maybe you should check out.
Okay, and then you just have to be aware of it, and then that word of mouth.
Exactly, awareness is the first step. Right. That's why I'm trying to share this group with so many people.
So, with that, how do you feel about being a spokesperson?
I am very honored to be able to help promote and represent a group that has given me so much help in my life.
Right.
I am hopeful for what kind of change it's going to make in our community, specifically here in Northern Ontario. We do have one cancer center here in Sudbury, and then smaller ones in smaller communities, but I'm so glad that I can be here where we have a large cancer center, and then I can work closely with them when they're willing to help grow a program like YAC. So I'm grateful, I'm hopeful, I'm proud. There's so many emotions that come along with it, but yeah. Do people always come in?
No, that's never happened. There was a charger there that I was going to offer one of you guys because I don't have an iPhone.
Oh.
I just put the chair outside the door and sit there.
Yeah. So like, what do you
bodyguard.
Yeah, I thought they looked the exact same too. I was like, wait a minute.
They're the same person? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't think where I want to go with that. That's a big one. So, how do you stay motivated through all of this, like through the whole journey from when you started to now?
I think my answer has changed over the years. When I was first diagnosed and everything was very physical right off the bat, my motivation was just getting through the freaking day, like waking up the next day and moving on with my life. And I was very hopeful for everything that my life was going to be
little
or
victories
would be.
and stuff to get through.
Exactly, yeah. Some days the victories were bigger than others. Some days, I'm just grateful I put my socks on by myself, and other days it's bigger.
Yeah.
Now, several years later, my motivation specifically with YAC and working as a spokesperson for YAC is all of those people, those 21 people out there who won't find an organization like YAC. And knowing how that felt for the first year and a half of my journey, and feeling hopeless and feeling isolated and alone, and knowing that there are young adults out there who don't have a support network. So that's my motivation. I want to be that person that reaches them and says, come be yourself with us, and come understand that you're not the only person going through what you're going through.
And potentially you could even inspire someone or many people to do exactly what you're doing now, which is being like a spokesperson, being a face for the organization, and pushing it and promoting it the way you are on multiple platforms.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I like that. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, it's a big one. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What in your life are you most grateful for right now? After going through all that, now you're, I believe, at the tail end.
I hope
hopefully,
so.
Hopefully.
I think there's still a lot of road ahead of me, unfortunately. I don't think, I know that cancer doesn't end when your treatment ends. This is a lifelong battle. I'm going to have to deal with this every day for the rest of my life. Whether it's the mental aspect or the physical aspect. I think that what I'm most grateful for, again, changes every day. Like there's so much that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for Western medicine. I'm grateful for free healthcare. I'm grateful for having...
No kidding.
I know, for having an incredibly supportive husband and family who stand by me regardless of what I'm going through. I'm grateful for having such a strong community in Young Adult Cancer Canada. I'm grateful for having friends who support me and who see value in what I'm doing and share it with their family and their friends.
And get the word out through their chain.
Mm-hmm.
So, meeting you and just chatting with you for the amount of time that we've communicated, you're a very positive person. It's almost terrifying. It's intimidating. I'm like,
I'm not
so
always
nice. I don't know. I'm nervous. But so, where do you think that positive attitude that you have comes from?
I've been saying this for a long time. If you don't laugh or smile about it, you're going to cry. And I kind of think about that a lot with my diagnosis. I have been thrown a lot of curveballs that we weren't expecting. Thyroid cancer is often thought of as the good cancer. It's got a 98% success rate, yet here I am 6 years later now living with metastatic thyroid cancer. It's almost unheard of in somebody my age. But, you have to be positive. What's the point in fighting so hard to live if I'm going to live negatively? Is the way I see it.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I have that. Some days I have those times where I just, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
upset, I'm grumpy, I don't want to do anything, I don't understand the work that I'm doing or the value of the work that I'm doing. I don't know whether my story is worthy of sharing with everybody all the time. I question it all the time, and Colin has to always remind me and say, like, no, what you did go through is worthy, and your story is helping people. So it's not 100% positivity all the time, but I also want people to understand that there are a lot of joys in cancer too. So if I always put out a negative side when I'm sharing my story, then I think that takes away from all the positives.
Like what are the, you just said some of the positives in cancer. I'm really curious because a lot of people would associate it with negative, so I'm interested.
Yeah, I think from really early on I could recognize that cancer is one of the best, worst things that's ever happened to me, and some people think that's really twisted to say, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Right.
But I learned an awful lot about life and about who I was and who I wanted to be at a really young age. And I don't think that if I had never experienced cancer in my 20s, early 20s, I don't think I'd be the same person I am today. Like, I've learned so many character traits and emotions and just secrets to life, so to speak, that I don't think I would have learned for so many years. And I think cancer has brought me extremely close to some people. It's showed me who is really there for me in my life, and it's brought me a lot of opportunity too with all the people that I've met and the relationships that I've met through Young Adult Cancer Canada. And these are people that wouldn't be in my life if it weren't for my diagnosis.
So I was kind of talking to my mother and thinking of the best way to word this, right? She's the communication consultant that I use frequently. Yeah. So, she's watching this for sure.
Hi, Mom.
I'm so embarrassed. So, I was talking with her about the correct way to word this, because I'm thinking, do you feel that people only see you as the woman with cancer, and how do you deal with that, if so? Sort of load up on that.
I think I'm still trying to deal with that. So it's actually something that I brought up recently in a support group meeting that I had, because I'm having a hard time disassociating my illness from my identity.
That's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're 19, 20 years old, that's when your personality is really forming. Or
you don't have much of an identity before.
Yeah, you're figuring out who you are and where your place is in this world, and it's such a formative point in your life, and then to throw an illness into that, yeah, absolutely. I'm, if people say, like, oh, who's Marley? Oh, it's the girl with cancer. Oh, it's the girl who does this. It's the girl who does that. So I think there are a lot of bigger things I don't know bigger, but there are a lot of other things in my life that are important also that I would like to be known for. But I don't know that necessarily being the girl with cancer is a bad thing. Sometimes it's frustrating, because I think a lot of people often underestimate a person with cancer.
Right. Like with what I just said with the negativity, where people assume it's negative, you're choosing to look at glass half full.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I don't think it's a bad thing to be known as the person with cancer, but sometimes I don't want to always be known as that person with cancer.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want that to be like who you are.
Yeah.
But you want to be a representation for this because you can relate to so many people who.
Yeah, I have cancer, but cancer doesn't have me.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a good way of putting it.
Saw that on an inspirational quote.
Yeah?
I did not make that up.
I was like, this might just
I'll take credit for it, but
like, this might just be the title of the video. Oh man, that's fine. Nice. So in the support group, what was some of the things that were talked about on how to separate the identity from cancer?
I think the women in the group, this wasn't in the young adult group, this was in our local group.
Right.
So I think maybe if I had this discussion in the young adult group, I might have had a different response. So the reason I think that is because the women in the group who did respond to me are significantly older. So in their case, they already had their identities formed when they were diagnosed. They already had you know, their families and their careers and so on. So they they were very supportive of me, and they said, like, I don't see you as the person with cancer. I see you as the person who, I see you as a wife. I see you as an aunt. I don't have kids, so I'm not a mother, but they see me for all of the other things in my life. I think if I had asked that question to the young adult group, I would have had a lot more maybe understanding from the young adults. I think maybe they would have been able to relate a little bit more. I don't know that their answer would have been any different, because I have a lot of cancer friends, but cancer is not the reason why we're friends. It's how we met, but it's not the only reason why we choose to...
It's the thing in common.
Exactly, but it's not the reason that we are friends.
Right, it's not the thing that formed the connection.
Exactly, yeah. So they see me as Marley. They don't see me as the girl with cancer.
Right.
We just both happen to have it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. I'm working on it. Still trying to figure out who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing. But I think,
And who do you want to become out of all this?
I want to be that person who can inspire newly diagnosed young adults. Not necessarily inspire them, I guess, but more so make them know that they're not alone in this.
Right. Like, be there for them.
Yeah.
Just immediately.
Yeah, and there's a really amazing woman in our organization. Her name is Corinne, and she's our social worker, but she's just the most beautiful person, and I think she is who I want to be when I grow up. And I say that, but like, I'm already grown up, but like, every time I think of who I want to be and what I want to do with this journey, I think of Corinne. I want to be this beautiful, happy, supportive person who can provide a safe space for young adults with cancer, while also still having fun and enjoying life and remembering to just stop and take a minute and breathe and work your way through life without fear and worry.
And that's what she does really well.
She posts these little daily reminders on Facebook she lives in Newfoundland, so beautiful pictures of Cape Spear or the ocean, and she'll say, just remember to breathe today, and she's just this very calm, I mean, I've seen her in the worst situation at a great big conference with 150 people, and she's just calm and just taking it as it comes. So that's who I want to be.
Just relax, letting life do its thing.
Yeah, you can't change it. You can be as angry as you want, but being angry is not going to change what's happening to you. So.
You hear that? Social media. Oh my, I like that. I like that one a lot. So you mentioned a couple minutes ago about life lessons you've learned that normally a lot of people, I believe, would have learned them later. And referring to the last show you did, you mentioned also you matured quickly.
Of course,
because you mature by going through, I believe, I find you mature a lot as a human being going through hardships and stuff. And when you get, hey, here's this one, boom, at like 14, and then going through it all. So what lessons have you learned throughout?
I have learned to recognize gratitude more often, because people take so many things for granted. You know, you may have gotten dressed this morning and not thought twice about throwing your pants on and your sweater and doing your own hair, but there were days after my surgery where, Colin had to help me put my clothes on, and Colin had to learn how to braid my hair because I couldn't do it myself.
It's a tough thing to know.
Yeah,
it's a tough thing to learn, and I understand. I still can't braid my girlfriend's hair. Sorry.
That's okay. Sometimes I just get up in the morning and I put my clothes on really quickly, and then I think, like, there was a point in my life where I couldn't do this. Like, I'm so grateful for being able to do this now, and I don't think I would have been as grateful. I think I would have just maybe started to blow through life and take things for granted, and, I would have probably stayed in school. I'm assuming I had to leave school when I got sick, so I would have stayed in school and I would have taken that for granted. I would have, maybe slacked off during a class when I wanted to, but now if I went back to school post-cancer or during cancer, I say post-cancer, and post-cancer to me refers to after the point of being diagnosed, because I don't think I'll ever get post-cancer, but I think I would be more grateful to have that opportunity to go to school, and I would take advantage of it. And so gratitude for sure. I'm much more empathetic, I think, than I was before. I don't think that At 19, I really had a good grasp on what empathy meant, and I think that I do a little bit more so now at 26 through my journey and through my interaction with other cancer patients.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. So, with that being said, then, I really like If You Don't Laugh, You'll Cry.
Yeah,
I like
well, it's true.
So, do you find, I might have asked you this already, but with your positive attitude, do you find you got that right away, or you went through, it was a lot more difficult to cultivate?
Yes and no. Like, I think right off the bat, I knew that I needed to be positive about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I struggled with being positive more so than I do now. So I think I was to some degree when I was first diagnosed. But I think now, as I'm moving on and I'm growing through my cancer journey, I think it's easier for me to be positive now. But I think it was always there. I think positivity is always in you. I think everybody has the ability to be positive. They just have to have the want to be positive.
Right. That part's tricky.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think turns that switch on from a not want to a want?
Again, for me, like I said, I was fighting so hard for my life.
Right.
Why do I want to live negatively?
Okay, you just said.
Yeah, I don't want to just sit there and wallow in my misery for
It's a
the
good
rest
point,
of my
yeah.
life. I want to
Fair.
move on. I want to
Fair.
grow from this. I
Right.
want to, I want to make my life everything that it can be while I have the time.
I like that. Yeah. Those are great answers. So, would you go back to school? Or do you want to?
I would love to go back to school. For me, knowing that I live 6 months to 6 months until we figure out what's going on with
Right.
the mass behind my sternum, I don't think it's feasible until, I think maybe if I got like a year or 2 years, even with clean scans, then I would have more of a, okay, I can do this.
Right.
But it's hard to go and invest 10 grand into my education, only to find out like, oh, sorry, you have to have surgery and recover for another 8 months and start back from square one.
So, taking it back to when you were younger, kind of exiting high school, would you recommend a victory lap to students
Absolutely.
who don't know?
Absolutely, yeah. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And at that point, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. That was kind of the best guess when I graduated grade 12 as to what I wanted to be. But in that 1 year of going back to high school, that's when I realized, like, I don't want to be a teacher. There's no jobs in teaching in Northern Ontario. There's, I didn't really know if there was going to be a huge future for me in teaching. So that's when I kind of realized, like, oh, actually, I think I want to get into the healthcare field. So if I hadn't done my victory lap, I would never have gotten to that point. Or maybe I would have too late. I would have started college or university and realized, like, wow, I just spent $10,000 and I'm not going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be frustrating.
Yeah.
'Cause I find there's a lot of people nowadays who, I'm curious what your take is on this. They need education. Well, not education, sorry, I'll separate the two. Education and schooling.
Mm-hmm.
They need schooling to be successful
They think they
in
do.
things.
They think they need schooling to be successful.
Because the way I see it, like, you're pretty successful now with Yak, and I know it's only going to grow. It can only grow,
It can only
especially
grow,
with the
yeah.
attitude.
Yeah.
So, do you feel then kids, they should do a victory lap, and why do you think that they don't necessarily know what they want to do?
You're not mature enough at 18 years old to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. I don't know at 26 years old if I'm mature enough to decide what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Right.
But I know that between 18 and 19, there's a huge maturity level gap in there. Between 19 and 20, 20 and 21, like you develop yourself so much in those years. So at 18 years old, I actually graduated when I was 17, because of when my birthday is, but at 17 years old, asking me to go and pay for tuition and pay for everything without knowing if this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, that's a big thing. That's a big, I can't even decide what I want to have for dinner, let alone what I want to spend all my money on for the rest of the next 6 years, 7 years.
Right.
So I think that victory lap gave me that time to mature and also maybe understand a little bit more of what I wanted to do, kind of where I wanted to go. It gave me a lot of opportunity to volunteer as well, I think that's something that's super important if you are taking a victory lap. If you don't have a full class schedule, like I didn't take 8 courses when I was doing my victory lap. I just took like half days almost, the way that my classes ended up, because I already graduated with all the credits that I needed.
Yeah.
So everything I was doing, I was either taking a course again to better my grade or taking something that I didn't get to take. Like when I went to Sudbury Secondary, I took a course on jewelry making. They didn't offer that at Llewellyn, and I thought, man, this is a fun way to spend my day. So I think that volunteering in between is a good way to understand if that is the field that you want to get into. So whether that's volunteering in a school if you want to be a teacher, or volunteering at the hospital if you want to work in healthcare, it's a good way to kind of get a good feel for what it is that industry is going to be like.
Cool. So to close, do you have a favorite quote that you live by?
I do. The best things in life are on the other side of fear.
Like that.
Yeah, Will Smith.
Will Smith.
Yeah.
In the skydiving story?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
So
Ever
good.
since I saw that video, I was like, that is my life mantra. And I think about that all the time. I thought about that when I was, I claustrophobic, and I was in a full body MRI for 45 minutes, and I was crying my eyes out during this MRI.
Yeah, me too.
And I kept thinking, like, the best things in life are on the other side of fear. When I'm done this, like, something better is going to come of it. So I think about it in all the time, not just health issues.
You maintain that, and then...
Yeah, so many groups.
Unreal.
Yeah. I'm glad you
All
knew
right.
who said that.
Yeah, 100%. I know the video. I can picture him standing up on that little platform. Talking about, like, why would you go skydiving? You realize you've never jumped out of a plane. You've never been in an airplane with the door open. And I'm like, unreal.
Yeah, nobody ever knows that quote, so I'm very glad that you do.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys, for watching.